If you were to travel the earth for 7 days and 7 nights, you may find one good piece of manhwa, but the average sane person doesn't want to do that. So I'm going to do it for you. I'm not only going to show you good manhwa, I'm going to show you good manhwa that caters to you if you like shonen. And I'm not just going to do that. This list is going to go past the top 20 that are always recommended. Ironically enough, that means they're going to be worse, but don't get me wrong, they're still going to be above the rest. There's a caveat though, bad news for some of you. If you read manhwa nonstop like I do, this list is not going to be new to you. Don't expect it to be, you're a lost cause. For those of you that are left, there is a list of these manhwa in the description, but stay if you want a quick spoiler-free summary. The Lone Necromancer proves that generic doesn't have to mean bad. After solo leveling, there are a lot of manhwa that tried to do the whole Necromancer thing, and don't get me wrong, those are bad, but Lone Necromancer is actually kind of an exception. In this story, one random day, everyone in the world chooses a class. Each of the classes have stars that determine how good they are, and the main character had the chance to choose a 5-star Necromancy class. As soon as he picks the class, he kills his first goblin and gets his first undead. He didn't waste any time, and neither does this story. It's just gonna be this fast the entire time. The entire story is kind of like a constant progression type of thing. There's not really a point where it slows down. The main flow of the story is gonna be him leveling up with his friends and getting stronger and stronger, but it feels like they're constantly swept towards the next battle. The battles themselves are actually getting bigger and bigger and higher stakes. The main cast struggles a bit in these fights, but that's only so you feel the next upgrade is earned. Outside these fights, the main character isn't instantly confrontational, but if someone pushes him too far, he'll whip his dick out, slap it across their face, except the metaphorical dick is an infinite undead army. But still, you know what's gonna happen, so what's the point? Honestly, it's just fun to read. It's done really well. Sometimes the story doesn't have to be new, it just has to be done really well. And that's what Lone Necromancer does. But let's slow things down and give you something a bit higher quality but slower pace. Check out The Dark Magician Transmigrates. Just imagine you took one of those trash stories where a powerful person reincarnates into the future or a different world. Now make it good. In the past, the main character used to be a really powerful dark magician who challenged the 12 gods in battle, but he lost. But he was so overpowered that they could only seal him away for specifically 6,666 years. That's all they could do. But now he's back and he reincarnated into the son of a noble. From this point on, it's just gonna be an average revenge story, and most of the plot is him trying to regain his power in order to fight the gods again. Except the main character isn't a psychopath that doesn't care about anything that happens in the story as long as he gets his revenge. Ironically enough, that may turn a lot of you off to the story, but as somebody who also enjoys those types of stories, I think you should give it a try. You might be pleasantly surprised because a lot of these stories tend to go down the same couple paths. Either the main character is really overpowered, does nothing for like 50 chapters, or you get this. This is episode 4. The Dark Magician is more balanced in those types of stories. The main character treats people like actual humans, and he plays the role of a nice son in order to make his family happy. He doesn't artificially interact with them and the rest of the world. Everything isn't just a meaningless pawn for his goals that can be thrown away. But he doesn't forget about his goals in the background. He's still doing crazy things to regain his power and doesn't take any bullshit. He used to fight the gods, and he'll put his body in a coma before he lets anybody outside his family talk to him like he's a child. Meanwhile, the plot goes beyond him just being badass and regaining powers. If he just regained his powers and did the same thing, he'd lose again. So he decides to use the assets in the world to make himself more powerful. He takes advantage of opportunities and maintains appearances instead of just leaving everything behind him in ruins, and he actually interacts with the world to make bonds that will be powerful for him later. I think it's one of the better types of these stories. Am the Sorcerer King is like a combination of the last two I talked about. It has fast-paced progression with a reincarnating to the future type story, but take that concept and lace it with cocaine because this story is pure crack. The main character starts off as monster bait, and by the end he's pretty much his own continent because the rest of the world just can't handle him. But like I said, he starts off as monster bait. He doesn't have any powers like the rest of the team that hunts down monsters. So why do this senselessly dangerous job for scraps? Well, he needs the money from this job because, and you won't believe this, he has a sick mother because Arthurs would rather kill their own mother in real life than think of another reason for the main character to need money. But this doesn't last long because after a monster throws a tank at a gas station, he's an ancient wizard now. No, I didn't miss any details. And after this, he instantly forms a magic flow and goes straight into what I can only describe as a mad rush speedrun to becoming a world superpower. No one can stop him from getting his next power up, and I don't know what it is about how they do the power stacking in the series, but it's just so satisfying to see him get the next upgrade. The integration he has between his past knowledge and current technology just makes sense. There's nothing else really to say about this, just go read it. But if you're looking for something that's not a constant dopamine rush and actually has a bit more story, I think that Reaper of the Drifting Moon is actually one of the strangest yet interesting manhwa I've ever read. It's not really what you would expect from manhwa. Within halfway through the first chapter, a child gets abducted by this guy, but he finds himself in a pitch black room with nothing in it. The only thing he has is water droplets that he can hear off in the distance. No, but don't worry, it gets worse for him. His body is partly paralyzed and it takes everything he has in order to get over to that water source, which he needs to get to because he needs that to survive. And that's all he does for the next who knows how long, is just survive. The only thing he has to look forward to is that the people who trapped him in there give him food every once in a while. But don't worry, because it gets worse for him. He's bitten by a poisonous snake that's just in his cell for some reason, and the snake turns him, I don't know, snake-like. The only relief he eventually gets is when the door to his prison cell opens randomly, and when he exits the room, he finds that a bunch of other children in different sections are also exiting their rooms, and all of them notice, including him, that he's the only one that survived in this section, which is in the deepest and darkest part of the prison. And from this point on, just go ahead and read it. It's got a couple twists in it, nothing too insane, but it's overall just a fun, interesting read. Just keep reading, I promise it's worth it. Okay, I know it's popular, but it's probably one of my favorite of all time, so I had to mention it in case anyone doesn't know. Nano Machine is what you get if you give a Victorian child a gun with infinite bullets. They're not gonna take over instantly, but holy shit, they have a gun. The story takes place in a Miriam world, and after being saved from being chased in the woods, the main character is injected with nanomachines from the future. And when he wakes up, he has a voice in his head, a connection to all information in the future, and influence over his entire body. Seems balanced to me in a Kung Fu world. You know, it's a Merm world, so they all have abilities, but his power gives him a certain edge. In the first section of the story, it kind of serves as like a catch-up tool, because this is one of those stories where the MC is a bastard son of the Lord, and the inheritance ceremony is coming up, that's why he almost died, and most of the beginning of the story is him going to school. But what separates this from a lot of other Merm series is that the system means more than just learning faster. It's more versatile with what it can do, and it doesn't just hand him abilities. It lets him read faster, it gives him the ability to learn secrets that are hidden throughout the world, but it doesn't just say, level 4, here is the 5 taps of death technique, where if you hit an enemy 4 times, fight over, they die. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's definitely overpowered. He's immune to things like poison, which for one of these martial arts worlds is just like an entire sect that can't do anything to him. Some martial arts masters like, oh, I've sprayed you with 1,000-year-old poison that has killed anybody that's ever come in contact with. And it's just because the system like cured it in 2 seconds. And my personal favorite is that telepathy in this world is just sound waves. So I think you can guess how that goes for him. It's just really fun to read, and it's a good take on an overused idea. Dungeon Odyssey is pretty much like a kingdom builder, but with dungeons. Apparently a war happened with humans in this place called the Geyser. The Geyser is a world that has labyrinths, labyrinth masters, and an entire ecosystem. But still, somehow the humans won the war. I've read a lot of these chapters, still no idea how they beat some of these monsters, but they did, and the Geyser was forced to release a lot of the prisoners they had. These prisoners included children that were born in the Geysers. And when these children came out, it was found out that some of them have special abilities, and the deeper they were in the Geyser, the better their abilities. Our main character is one of these babies, and he decided to spend his time being a guide within the Geyser. One day, unfortunately, while he's guiding a team, they get slaughtered because they didn't listen to his instructions. After defeating the monster, he ends up stumbling into a labyrinth, gets bitten by a snake, and wakes up as a labyrinth master. His job is now to build up a labyrinth so that it doesn't get destroyed by other labyrinth owners. If you like kingdom builders, I think you'll like this. There's a problem with a lot of kingdom builders where they tend to just keep adding people and forgetting about the others, and I think that's kind of weird because that's kind of what they depend on, is building up all characters rather than one character's individual strength. I think this manhwa does a decent job at balancing things out, but it's generally not for everyone. One Torn Newbie is about a 30-year-old game addict who just lost everything while upgrading his sword to pay off his debts. He got greedy and tried to upgrade it again, and it worked. He had enough to pay off everything and even had a little bit left over. But just one more wouldn't hurt. Surely just, holy shit, it worked! He's gotta go again, he has to. It broke. And he was so devastated that he died and went back in time. When he woke up in the past, as expected, he decided to take advantage of every opportunity he could that he knew of in the future. The only difference is that he's a massive troll. Not only is he determined to steal any opportunity from anybody else, but he just genuinely likes to be a nuisance. He's okay with being the enemy of the world. He's okay if everyone hates him. In fact, it's more fun as long as he gets everything that he wants. He's not even an anti-villain. He's just kind of the worst. Bottom line, head to toe, this guy is pure evil and a scam artist at heart. No matter how humiliating, how degrading, or how much he gets in everyone else's way, he'll do anything. He'll fight a boss monster for 3 months just to get a weapon, or be naked just because it gives him a slight advantage. And he has a why wear armor when you can just not get hit type of mentality. Bro's version of doing a little bit of trolling is taking psychological advantage of things that he knows are happening in an opponent's real life. He's not doing a little bit of trolling, he's doing a little bit of psychological warfare. If any of these things sound a bit cringe to you, or you just genuinely don't like slightly annoying characters, do not read this. If that's not a problem for you, it's genuinely a good game like Loot Gathering story. What if you could send your emotions back in time? A man on the battlefield is given a wish by a goddess, but instead of wishing to live, he wants a second chance. So he asks the goddess to go back in time. She says no, just straight up. And then he dies. Kill the Hero is about no. A noble uses her wish to send back only his emotions, and we discover that in the past, the MC was a gambler who lost all of his luck. Literally. He used to have an ability to see probability. He saw green as good and red as bad, but then he discovered gambling. And he used his power to win so much that he actually lost the ability. But at his lowest moment, when he lost everything, he gets hit with his feelings. Sorry. And with them, he's able to snap out of his trance, and he even regains his ability, which is actually just in time because the opportunity that led him to die in the past happens right now. Only this time, he uses his feelings and he remembers exactly what to do and gets a better deal. The deal allows him to enter trials where he has to compete to enter another world. The first arc of this manhwa is kind of like Tower of God. It's a series of trials in order for him to enter the new world, but he's not completely clueless like Bam is. With his feelings from the future and his ability, he's able to avoid a lot of bullshit that comes his way. Pretty decent overall. Following the trend of going back to the past, Kill the Hero is probably one of the best return stories that I've ever read, and it's not because of the story. It's not bad. It starts off at the tail end of the main character's journey with his team in order to save the world from dungeon outbreaks. They're at the final door and they're about to face the final boss when the MC turns around and gets a sword to the fucking chest by, you guessed it, the hero. It turns out that the hero and the other people on his team want to keep the world the same so that they can keep running it. Because of the dungeons, the world government has no choice but to rely on them, and they want to keep it that way. So they got rid of the main character because he's too strong and the only one that could get in their way. By killing him, it's pretty much over. Unluckily for them, they forgot to account for time travel. Classic mistake. So the MC returns to the past right before he gets to choose a class. So let's play a bit of a game. Does he A, choose a magic swordsman class, B, choose a necromancer? Yeah, no surprise. Only reason I genuinely like this generic ass manhwa is because he actually gets shit done, and he starts killing revenge targets pretty quickly. Of course, you know, he doesn't go after the big guys immediately. He starts off with the little guys that are probably corrupt, but it sets off a pretty nice chain reaction that's pretty satisfying to watch. Seeing the organization slowly collapse as he kills each person is entertaining, and it doesn't get boring because of how he executes each kill. The preparations that he does for each kill isn't so in depth that it's ridiculous. He just kind of gets gear that he needs and sets himself up to be more powerful while also using the weaknesses of the people to get a slight advantage. He doesn't dominantly kill many people, especially the big guys. He sort of has to work for it. And if you remember enough, you can see the puzzle pieces for his next attack sort of building. It's like, oh, I wonder when he's going to use that. And then when he pulls it out of his pocket, it just sort of makes sense. It's pretty good for the type of story that it is. But this final manhwa is probably one of the most unique that I've ever read. The world of Updater is like a computer. It has admins, moderators, viruses, players, monsters, and villagers, just like a computer. The villagers live normal lives and the players hunt and kill monsters. But the players treat the villagers like NPCs because they don't have a system. The system may seem like a generic manhwa system because it is. The difference is that the person behind it isn't some unseen god, it's the admin. The admin's job is to rid the world of viruses, and that takes the form of going around and just wiping them out. But the problem is that if a virus gets into a village, the village has to go. The village gets wiped out completely with no traces left, and that's exactly what happened to the main character. The admin came in and wiped out his entire village. His sister was erased right in front of him, and then he got erased. But right before he was about to get deleted, something pulled him out. And when he woke up, he not only had a system, he had admin privileges and could use commands. Now the commands start off basic with him just repairing tools, but by the end the system is actually pretty cool, and the story itself starts off as a revenge manhwa, but it takes a pretty interesting twist, and I think you'll like it if you enjoy these types of stories. Also, let me just say that if you like when a character has a moment that changes them forever and they go through a transformation glow up, kind of like Tokyo Ghoul, read this all the way through. Trust me. I think that if you read a lot of shonen, you'll enjoy these. They may not be as good story-wise as manga, but I think that they're a genuine, good and fun read. I also have a list of some that you can enjoy if you like isekai. I'm thinking of making a video about that, but I don't know. See ya.